I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Well, it's all painted up and pretty. I bet you're wondering what it is. I'll show you. This chainsaw chain is dull as a butter knife. Won't hardly cut anything, I would imagine. So I thought, well, I'll sharpen my chainsaw. But there's been something that needed to be done for a long time. I needed a mount for this chainsaw sharpener. And I thought, well, I could make one. So that's what I did. And I thought, if I make it so it clamps into the vise, that way I'll have a nice, steady spot to work from. And I'll solve one of the problems with this chainsaw sharpener. It's kind of wobbly. Now it's plastic. The one that I fixed up for George, I'll show you in a link, was the Foley Belsaw model, and it was steel, and that worked really well. But I don't have one of those, and they're kind of expensive. I could get one, I suppose. But a while back, before I had any money to spare on anything, I ended up going to Harbor Freight and buying this one. Now, it's not the cheapest thing in the world. I mean, hand file and a guide is probably the least expensive. But I thought, well, you know what? This is workable, I suppose. So that's what I did. I ended up buying this thing. But every time I tried to use it, I ended up having to clamp it down to the bench. And that meant that the thing was just wobbling around all over the place. Totally unacceptable. Now, I am seeing a problem here. There we go. Couldn't get the screw down through the hole. These carriage bolts are bent. So I'm going to do something that Louis would probably approve of. I'm going to drive them down in with a hammer. Just take my hammer extension here and set that screw down in where it goes. Then come over here to the other one. And Bob's your uncle. Okay. I gotta flip it over. Now, in case you might be wondering, this won't work on the Workmate. You need to have an opening underneath the chain guide, and that is not going to happen here on the Workmate. Now, I suppose I could turn it sideways and make it work, but you know, I've got a bench vise. That's what this 2x4 block is for. It's to give me something to clamp on in the bench vise. Just snug. I don't want to clamp it down too tight. I'll pucker this frame and that'll loosen everything up. Okay, so now we get over here to the bench vise, which is where it's supposed to end up. Having a bench vise that lets you just slide it back and forth is a big help. Clamp it down tight, and there we go. Now just to set up the chain, right now it's set up to cut the left hand. Well, if you're holding the saw, it's the right hand tooth. Just drop the grinder down till it touches. Now there's probably better ways to do this, but this is the way I learned. The chain gets set in this little track here. Now, the way I go about it is I bring one of the links up and I bring the grinder down until it touches. Don't want to pull that up tight, you just want to snug that up so that it's not wobbling and it holds the teeth straight up and down. Like that. Got that a little too tight. And I bring the grinder down with it off and run that little screw up until the tooth touches. And I tighten that up. Then to do the next one, tooth touches, and I go to the next tooth and check. Go around again and the next tooth and check. Now if I've sharpened these once already, I don't worry about it so much, but quite often I've found that I can end up if I just pick the first tooth and set the chainsaw sharpener up for that, that may be an odd tooth. It may not be, if somebody hand sharpened this, that may be the only tooth that is set that short. You know, they may have filed one tooth way down. Just like that one. Okay, that's all the way around once. Let's start up and cut the first set. I don't have to do a whole lot of pulling on it. Really, all I want to do is just kiss it. Now we're into the short teeth. We're going to have to take a couple passes on this to make sure I got it set right. See, that's a long tooth. If I set it to the short teeth, when I came to that long tooth, I'd burn it. So I want to set it to the long teeth and then come back and make another pass to even them up. Now if you work this carefully, like you're supposed to, and hold your angles straight. Once you have the chain set up and ready to run, it's just a matter of walking your way through the It doesn't take a lot of force to make the chainsaw sharpener work. There's a long tooth. There's the skip tooth again. I'm sparking off of every tooth. So having it spark off every tooth means that I've got this whole side ground. Now I loosen this up. Set the angle again. Definitely was sharpened by hand because one side is set at 30 and the other side is set at 20. So we'll have to see what we do here. By sharpening one side at a steeper angle than the other, I bet this chain went sideways. Cut a curved curve. Not even coming close on that one. Here's this one, which is almost sixteenth of an inch longer. Okay. We've gone around twice now on this side. I'm going to go around a second time on this side. I'm going to take it up just a little bit. No point taking it any further than that. Just like I say, all I'm doing is wearing away the life of the chain. But I do want to have all the teeth at least have some point on it. Now, I bet the other thing that's happened is it doesn't look like they filed the gauges down. So I bet they were just cranking like hell trying to make this saw work, because they filed the teeth back till they weren't touching the wood anymore. Now, the first time somebody told me about setting the gauges, it was a real mind blower, because all of a sudden I took a chain that wasn't, or chainsaw that wasn't working at all. I mean, you could let that thing rub away on a log until your arm was dead, and all that it did was slowly polish a hole in it. Then I set the depth on the depth stops on the gauges, and I was all of a sudden cutting real chips. There's that short tooth. That one's gonna probably never cut. And there we're back around to the double teeth again. This is the tricky part. I'm going to set this on 0 and bring it around until I have a gauge tooth on there. And then loosen that up and bring this back until it's touching on the back of the tooth. Now, the distance from the back of the tooth to the gauge is the same on all of them. Doesn't matter whether it's a left side or right side. That tooth length is the same. So I want to set this, which is the depth stop. It comes down and lands on this little post here. I want to set that so that it won't cut. Won't grind at all. There, it's way up in the air. I'll lock this down. Make sure I've got my angle set. And I've got it set on 0 just so that, because I'm going to be hitting both teeth the same, this tooth is on that side a little bit and this tooth is on this side a little bit. So I want to make sure that they stay consistent. Okay. Okay. Come back around. Back up a tooth. I don't need to take off much. Matter of fact, let's check. I set the feeler gauge on the gauge tooth, and I set the straight edge on there, and I'm just barely feeling a drag on that straight edge. So I'm at about 14. I want to take that up just a little bit. Yeah, I'm just feeling it start to tug on it. Now they make a nice little gauge that slips over the teeth and lets that little gauge tooth come up through, and it's hardened so that you can file across the top of it and set those gauge teeth. And that's real handy. I don't happen to have one. So I'm doing it kind of the machinist way. What I'm really looking to do is to set that gauge tooth, in this case 14 thousandths below the surface, 14 thousandths below the edge of the cutting tooth. So if all things are equal, I should make a chip 14 thousandths thick. Okay, we've gone around the chain. I've hit all the teeth, but these teeth are not all the same depth. Like I said, this side was cut at 20, and this side was cut at 25. You can see the difference in angle. So on this one, I just barely kissed the end of it, and this one I took a full cut. So I'm going to try this and see how it works before I go through and take another 5 sharpenings off of it, trying to even up both sides, because this chain is pretty well worn to start with. The ends of the teeth are sharp. We'll see how they cut. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching. This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the US or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.